Kamala Harris has officially secured the necessary delegates to become the Democrat nominee for president. For now. Who knows? This seems to change by the hour, so by tomorrow, maybe we'll have a new one. For now, however, she's the nominee. And she is wasting no time in setting the theme of her campaign, which is to take your guns and kill your babies.
We who believe that every person in our nation who should have the freedom to live safe from the terror of gun violence will finally pass red flag laws, universal background checks, and an assault weapons ban. And we who believe in reproductive freedom will stop Donald Trump's extreme abortion ban.
I need to give a hat tip to Joel Fisher on X for discovering this little gem of a campaign theme because it is so ironic. She wants to gut the Second Amendment because guns kill people, and she wants to gut the Dobbs decision because it won't let you kill people. Precisely the kind of coherence that we have come to expect from the woman who wants to imagine what can be unburdened by what has been. But there is another reason, beyond an antipathy for our rights and a bloodlust for babies, that Kamala Harris is seizing on guns and abortion. The reason is they're issues for which ability and accomplishment can't really be measured. If Kamala were to run on her administration's immigration policy, she would lose because we know that they have failed to secure the border. They've let in millions of illegal aliens. If Kamala were to run on the administration's economic performance, she would lose because everyone goes grocery shopping. We all know the economy is not doing so hot. If Kamala were to run on the administration's handling of foreign affairs, she would lose because we can see the new wars that have started on their watch. But if she runs on the future promise of restricting gun rights and expanding abortion, she will win over sympathetic voters because there's always another gun to take and another baby to kill. Her choice of campaign issues reveals, in part, her ideological radicalism, but more than anything, it reveals her and Joe Biden's abject failure to score any wins on which she could possibly run. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Kamala is running to take your guns, to kill your babies, and to give your money in the form of universal medicine to, not to American citizens, to illegal aliens, as we recall from this clip when she was running for president herself 5 years ago.
The bill also says, quote, every individual who is a resident of the United States is entitled to benefits for health care services under this act. Not every individual who's a citizen, but every individual who's a resident. Mm-hmm. So you support giving universal health care, Medicare for all, to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety, public education, or public health, period.
Period. We're giving your taxpayer money, but not just for universal health care, but also for education. We're going to give your taxpayer money to foreign nationals. Foreign nationals who come into this country illegally are going to get better services, access to more stuff than you do, an American citizen. This wasn't a million years ago. This isn't some gotcha clip like you play a clip of Joe Biden from 1975 and you say, haha, see, there's Joe. He's a racist or he's a Grinch or he's this or he's that. This is a clip from when Kamala was running for president last election cycle. She dropped out of the race before the primaries. Then she was picked for VP. She was picked for VP, it would seem, based on the way that she ran in 2020. Now, of course, that's not true. As Joe Biden told us, she was picked for VP because she's a black woman, and the other two black women who were up for it, Karen Bass and Susan Rice, were disqualified because the former is a communist and the latter was the fall man for Benghazi. But it would seem plausible, at least, that the way it was all pitched after the fact was that Kamala was picked based on her campaign based on her ability to be president should anything happen to Joe Biden. So that's what we judge her on now, and she is ideologically to the left of Biden. Joe Biden is a man of the left, and he's moved much further to the left in recent years because he's not a conviction politician. He's an empty suit. He goes whichever way the wind blows, and the Democratic Party has moved to the left. And Kamala Harris is significantly to the left of him. You remember from that same time period, this is about 4 years ago now, she went on the Stephen Colbert show, and when she wasn't cackling and cracking herself up, she was asked about the BLM riots that she funded because she bailed the rioters out of jail. Kamala Harris said they're not going to stop.
I know that there are protests still happening in major cities across the United States. I'm just not seeing the reporting on it that I had
that's right.
for the first few weeks.
That's right. But they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And they're not. This is a movement. I'm telling you, they're not going to stop. And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that they're not going to let up, and they should not. And we should not.
Notice here, this isn't even Stephen Colbert trapping her in some tough question. He just points out, he says, yeah, there are protests. We just don't see it being reported that much. And then she keeps going. She makes her position more clearly radical. And you can almost, you look on Colbert's face, he's always thinking like, lady, shut up, cut it out. Come on, I'm trying to help you here. She says, no, they're not going to stop. All these mostly peaceful arson events, all these riots and the looting and the killing, it's going to keep going. It's not going to stop, and it shouldn't stop. This is the Kamala Harris that Republicans should run against. The Republicans are running against the Biden-Harris administration. The Democrats made a last-minute change because they felt certain that they were going to lose with Biden, because they can't defend the Biden-Harris administration record. So they made this last-minute swap, and they're hoping that can off-foot the Republicans. And maybe it will to some degree. But the Republicans can basically keep running the same campaign, at least as it pertains to the issues, at least as it pertains to the last 3 years, because Harris is the vice president. So she's part of the Biden-Harris administration. And we can run against that version of what we've seen for the past 3 years. However, in as much as we are going to focus on Harris as a person, we need to focus on the recklessness, the lawlessness, the radicalism. This is the key. There is going to be a Republican inclination to attack Kamala from the left. We were talking about this a little bit last night on Backstage. Kamala Harris, before she was vice president, was a senator from California and the attorney general of California. And when she was attorney general, she prosecuted a lot of people. She prosecuted a friend of mine, David Daleiden, for exposing the fact that Planned Parenthood sells baby parts for money. And she went after him because he was exposing the evils of the abortion industry. And she went after a lot of other people. And an attack from the left on Kamala Harris is that she locked up a lot of black men. It's okay to lock up those white men, but she locked up a lot of black men for drug offenses. And for some reason, I don't know, I guess we're supposed to legalize all the drugs or something like that. We've got the worst drug crisis ever in American history. We got people dying left and right, but for some reason, the left wants us to legalize even more drugs. And so the attack from the left was, she locked up these black men for drug crimes, and that's really bad. And I know there already are some Republicans who are parroting this attack. Locking up drug dealers and gangsters and criminals is the one good thing Kamala Harris has ever done. Okay, if you're going to attack her for anything, that should be the very last issue that you turn to. You don't attack Kamala Harris because she's locked up too many criminals. Americans want our politicians to lock up criminals. One of the big problems over the Biden-Harris administration is they don't lock up criminals, and crime has spiked. And you obviously see that at the southern border, where the cartels now control our border. The Kamala Harris to attack is the Kamala Harris who goes on the Colbert Show, who unsolicited says, BLM riots are going to continue. They should continue. We're going to burn down your cities, and I'm going to bail the rioters out of jail. That's the real Kamala Harris. It's the one to go after. It's the one who is going to be repulsive to the American people. Now, you know what I find to be the opposite of repulsive? Do you know what I find to be extremely enticing and appetizing and delicious? Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com, use promo code Knowles. The Olympic Games are just around the corner. Good Ranchers is gearing up for their festivities by offering new subscribers a free gold medal add-on for the next 4 years. You can enjoy free plain chicken breasts, Angus ground beef, applewood bacon, or wild-caught salmon in every order for the next 4 years. Plus, with my exclusive code, Knowles, KNWLES, you will get an additional $25 off your first box. So that means it's up to $1,200 in savings when you subscribe. What I would recommend, of those 4 choices, I would get the plain chicken breasts. The chicken is excellent, and I don't talk about it enough because I'm focused on the beef, which is absolutely magnificent, and especially the Wagyu ground beef and the burgers, but also the steaks. The New York strip is fabulous and all. But the chicken is extremely underrated. So anyway, just get it. It's phenomenal. Good Ranchers is not only an amazing partner of this show, they also partner with Paralyzed Veterans of America. It's a great company. I don't know how they offer this quality for this low price, but go over there right now. Go use code Knowles to claim $25 off your first box with free express shipping and a free add-on for 4 years. And I don't know, there's going to be 5 more freebies by the end of this. Don't miss the summer special. Go to goodranchers.com, promo code Knowles. Goodranchers.com, American meat delivered. Who is supporting Harris? Well, for one, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer.
So now that the process has played out, from the grassroots bottom up, we are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm clapping. You don't have
to. When I say for one, Chuck Schumer, I mean he's the one person who's supporting Kamala Harris. That is the second Jeb moment in 2 days of the Harris campaign. We played the Jeb moment yesterday, the please clap. Please clap. That was from Kamala herself. And now we're getting the please clap from Chuck Schumer. We're here to support Kamala Harris. At least I am. Whatever. You don't have to clap. That's fine. Now, it's not totally fair to say it's just Chuck Schumer. It's also House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
Kamala Harris and her candidacy has excited and energized the House Democratic Caucus, the Democratic Party, and the nation. Vice President Harris has earned the nomination from the grassroots up and not the top down.
Water is very dry, and the moon is made of green cheese. And up, as we all know, is really down. And black is white, and we are through the looking glass. Yeah, nothing he said is true. Everyone's really excited about Kamala Harris. We'll get to the poll numbers in just a second. The spoiler alert, they're not really excited about Kamala Harris. We're all really excited, and Kamala Harris has earned this nomination. She hasn't gotten a single vote while running in a Democrat presidential primary. And this was a decision made by the grassroots from the bottom up, not the top down. Everybody basically in the entire Democrat Party who voted in a primary voted for Joe Biden. And then you people took Biden out against their will and you installed Kamala Harris. And I get why you did it, because Biden's brain turned to pudding and his poll numbers were bad, so you had to make a last-minute substitution because you were going to lose to Trump. Okay, yeah, I get it. But don't pretend this is some grassroots populist movement. You just installed her because she was the only one you really could turn to. And she's one of the few politicians who's equally empty in her suit as Joe Biden is. Nobody really believes what Jeffries is saying. No one really believes what Schumer's saying. He even jokes about it himself. He goes, okay, I'm the only one clapping, whatever, okay. But they don't care, is the other thing. Republicans are going to hit this attack for a few weeks. This isn't democratic. The Democratic Party isn't democratic. Sure, they don't care. The Democratic Party has never been all that democratic. In 2016, they rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders. It's a machine. It's a political machine. Barack Obama came out of the Chicago machine. Democrats have had big machines going back all the way to Tammany Hall and Boss Tweed in New York, and further back than that even. So that's that. The Democrats pretend to care, and so they will pay lip service to this, but they can get away with making these preposterous statements that no one believes because they just need to say it. It doesn't really need to be true. This is like all the Democrats who said for 3 years that Joe Biden does not have dementia, he's not senile, he just has a childhood stutter. I don't think they really believed that. I don't think most of them really believed that. They were trying to convince themselves they need to give themselves an excuse to elect him, but they were just going to elect him anyway. This guy, the left-wing streamer Destiny, he and I were on Piers Morgan's show a couple of weeks ago, and he said, this was back when Biden was still in the race, he said, I would vote for an urn of Joe Biden's ashes before I would vote for Donald Trump. And I think that's what most of the Democrats believe, even if many of them are not willing to state it explicitly. So they don't really care. That's why there will be no blowback for Schumer saying, right, we all love Kamala. Yeah, whatever, who cares? She's your nominee, deal with it. And I think probably Democrats are looking at the race now. They're thinking, okay, maybe this woman has a slightly better chance than Biden to beat Trump. Probably she's going to lose anyway. That's why a lot of us don't want to be her VP. We don't want to be too close to the Harris campaign. But okay, lady, this is your best shot. You're never going to win a Democrat primary for president. So you're happy. We're happy that we've got a candidate who at least has a pulse. And, whatever, we'll roll the dice. Worst case, Trump's term limited at 1, and then maybe we can get him in 28. I think that's a lot of the calculation going on here. The only thing more contrived than the grassroots Democrats, Schumer and Jeffries for Harris, is the Nikki Haley voters for Harris. This group came out yesterday, said, we support Joe Biden's recommendation and will immediately change the name of our organization to Haley Voters for Harris. This was apparently a pro-Haley PAC before it switched over to being a pro-Harris PAC. There's no time to lose. She was a tough prosecutor, and we encourage her to select a moderate VP. Okay. Nikki has already sent a cease and desist letter here. Nikki says, stop using my name. I don't support Harris. I endorse Trump. I spoke at the Republican National Convention. Absolutely outrageous. But this could have been expected because, as I've said from the beginning, I know some people listening right now are gaga for Haley. They really liked Haley. It was a minority, obviously, but they really liked Haley. And I know there are a lot of people who don't like Haley because they think Haley is too left-wing or too moderate or she wasn't sufficiently loyal to Trump or whatever. Now, I personally really like Nikki Haley, and I've said many times she's a very, very skilled politician. She was able to succeed as a moderate governor of South Carolina. Then she was in a very public role in the Trump administration and won a lot of plaudits from the conservative wing of the party and the MAGA wing of the party. And then she criticized Trump. Then she ran her own race. She ran in the moderate lane in 2024. But now she's kind of back in the good graces. Trump is saying nice things about her. She's very good. The problem, though, is when she was running in the only lane available to her in the 2024 presidential primary, that necessarily meant appealing to squishes, some of whom would rather vote for leftists and Democrats than Donald Trump, who is a center-right Republican, albeit the most conservative probably of my lifetime, relative to the time period in which he's running. So this was always going to happen. That's the hazard of running that way. I think it's super smart of Haley to send the cease and desist. She's done a great job at keeping her political career on track and maintaining her position in the GOP. Got a speaking spot at the RNC. Don't need this. But it does expose some of the squishes. When the squishes in the GOP say, I just can't possibly vote for this ruffian Donald Trump. This rapscallion, he just sends mean tweets and uses vulgar language. Very often they're just Democrats. They're just saboteurs. Again, I'm not saying that's Nikki. Nikki's a Republican who endorsed Trump. But a lot of these people, a lot of these squishes, they would much sooner vote for a Democrat like Kamala Harris, who is significantly to the left of Joe Biden. So what do the poll numbers show? Is Trump in trouble? We'll turn to CNN, actually, to give us some information on that. First, though, I want to tell you about Zero Debt USA. Go to zapmydebt.com. Do you ever think, how can I work this hard and still be in debt? The piles of overdue bills, the threatening phone calls, and never having money to do anything. If you are trapped in debt, Zero Debt USA is the way out. They have developed aggressive new strategies to end your debt permanently. Zero Debt USA stands between you and the bill collectors. They negotiate with creditors to lower or even forgive what you owe. And they do it all without bankruptcy or loans. Bottom line, Zero Debt USA has powerful strategies that zap your debt quickly, so you have more money in your pocket every month. But you need to hurry because some debt solutions are time sensitive and you do not want to miss out. Go to zapmydebt.com. Talk with one of their debt relief strategists for free. Find out how fast they can get you out of debt. You go to zapmydebt.com. I know this is a big worry and this really, really weighs on people, and it can keep you up at night and it can cause all sorts of problems. Well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about those annoying phone calls. Just do something very simple. Zapmydebt.com. That is zapmydebt.com. I'm not just looking at the right-wing polls. I'm not just reading the right-wing media. Here we turn to fake news CNN. But the fake news, obviously, it's fake in that it attacks conservatives and it favors Democrats. Well, here, CNN's numbers seem to suggest Trump's looking pretty good.
In the ABC News Ipsos poll, he recorded his highest ever favorable rating at 40%. That's not a one-off. Take a look at the Quinnipiac University poll, 46%. That's the highest ever in that pollster. The fact is, Donald Trump is more popular now than he ever has been before. So yes, Democrats can make this switcheroo, but they're still going to have to beat Donald Trump, a Donald Trump who is stronger, Sarah, than he has ever been before.
It will be interesting to see how voters respond to all of this. Now, how is he doing relative to Harris, who did run at one point? What do those numbers look like?
Yeah, so let's take a look here, right? We've been focusing so much on how Harris was doing better than Biden in the polling, and that's true. If we take a look at the national average, what do we see? We see Donald Trump up by 1. That's a within the margin race, right? That's a close race. But remember, of course, in the national popular vote, Democrats tend to do better there than they've done in the Electoral College, at least when Donald Trump has been running for president. So last time around, when Joe Biden barely won in the Electoral College, he actually won the national popular vote by 4 points. So at this point, Donald Trump is running 5 points better. 5, that's a 5 of some sort. 5 points better than he was 4 years ago against Joe Biden.
This is all good news. This is all really good news because you're going to hear the doomers on the right, especially, saying, oh, no, Trump, he's totally out of it. You know, Kamala polls better than Biden. Well, maybe she does a little bit better than Biden, but still not looking great. And right now, Trump is still up in the race. And by the way, Trump, when it comes to the national polling, Trump could even be down in the race and still very likely win because the race is not decided by the national popular vote. It's decided by the Electoral College. Trump did get a boost after his assassination in terms of approval, or his assassination attempt that he survived by a hair's breadth. He did get a boost after the RNC. The RNC was extraordinarily well run. Laura Trump deserves a lot of credit. Everyone who had a hand in putting on the RNC deserves a lot of credit. It was tight. It was jubilant. It was on message. It was a very impressive showing. That's not often or always the case. Sometimes conservative and Republican Party events are completely off the wall, but they did a great job at the RNC, and you're seeing that reflected in the polling. Now we have another poll, Forbes Harris X, shows Trump versus Harris is 53-47. So Trump's got a 6-point spread there. And don't forget, this is the Harris honeymoon period. So candidates, when they're just floated as potential candidates, potential nominees, they tend to look a lot better than when they actually get into the race and the dirt starts flying. No one was really focused on Harris until about 3 days ago. So if past is precedent, Harris's numbers are only going to get worse from here. That's not an argument that Republicans should be complacent. Republicans need to go out. They need to vote early. They need to harvest ballots. They need to get really aggressive in the way that Democrats always do. Think about how aggressive Democrats are. They booted out their guy who gave 54 years of his life to the Democrat Party. They threw him under one of those big yellow school buses that Kamala loves so much the second it looked like he might hurt them in November. So we have to get aggressive too. But right now we're looking good. Our nominee is as popular as he's ever been. We know our nominee's already won a presidential election at least once. The numbers look pretty solid. He got a boost after the RNC, and now you just got to start slinging that dirt at Kamala and stay focused. Don't focus on the things about Kamala that no one really cares about. I don't think American voters care that she was too tough on crime. I think that'll make them like her more. I don't even think voters really care that she had a somewhat disreputable early start to her political career in San Francisco. It's funny to joke about. We've all kind of joked about that that tabloid gossip about her. But I actually don't think that really moves any voters in November. Focus on the real stuff. She's got a horrible record. Her ideology is extremely left-wing. She owns the Biden-Harris administration. Democrats are making this Hail Mary last-minute kind of play. I don't think that it appears to be working very well in the polls. Now, in other news, Joe Biden appears to be alive. We weren't sure. I said that I was convinced that Biden was alive, but the Democrats were doing a good job convincing me that he wasn't. Meaning they wouldn't show a picture of him. They wouldn't show a video of him. They played this weird audio of him, ostensibly a phone call, but Kamala Harris referred to it, or began to refer to it, as a recording. Well, we saw him. He was walking out on the tarmac from a limo to an airplane, and here is how he dealt with the press.
Why did you drop out, Mr. President? Why did you drop out of the election? Was it a difficult decision to make?
That guy is far gone. He looks, now sure, it's loud on a tarmac, but he turns, he sees the reporter. The reporter says, "Why'd you drop out, Mr. President?" He looks like he's confused. Not that he didn't hear the question, almost like he doesn't understand the question, doesn't know who the guy is. He says, "Why'd you drop out?" It's a pretty simple question. And Biden kind of gets this lost smile on his face and then walks away clumsily, rigid into his car. That guy's done. That guy's toast. And I'm certain that whatever deal they struck when he was in Rehoboth Beach, quarantining from COVID, involved him stepping aside from the 2024 race in exchange for him not getting 25th Amendmented and being able to keep his office for 6+ months. But how can that guy be president? He's supposed to speak tonight to address his stepping down and how he's going to remain on the job. He might resign for all we know. But how can that guy stay in office? If you've ever had a relative, say, who's dealt with dementia, you know what it's like and you know how fast it progresses. The one, I guess, rejoinder to that is our foreign adversaries, people like Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin, they've known that this guy's a vegetable for years. The FSB, the successor organization to the KGB, is a pretty good intelligence gathering organization. So, if your average Uncle Paul, wearing the MAGA hat at Thanksgiving dinner has known that Joe Biden's a vegetable for 3 years, I'm pretty sure that the president of the Russian Federation knew it too. I'm pretty sure Xi Jinping knew it too. And so the foreign affairs have been managed terribly, but I'm not convinced that they're going to be managed any worse now that the cat's out of the bag, even among the Democrats, even among the people who watch NBC and read the New York Times, than it was for the last 3 years. Now, speaking of people who are totally done, the Secret Service director has finally resigned. Kimberly Cheadle faced calls from Republicans and Democrats. She held on for something like 10 days after the shooting. She should have resigned that after the following morning, after President Trump was nearly murdered. She tried to hold on. She had no support among lawmakers. Her boss, Alejandro Mayorkas, the DHS secretary, said he had 100% confidence in her. Biden seemed to back her in as much as he's able to make any decisions these days. But the lawmakers of both parties said she had to go, and so she just resigned. Mayorkas backed her because he knows that he's the next one who would be responsible. And he wanted to keep his job, so he was trying to defend her. He was trying to push the responsibility down the line. I'm glad she's resigned. She obviously had to resign. This is not even close to enough. The first question that we need to get the answer to, there are going to be all sorts of investigations. That woman might be dragged before Congress again. Mayorkas certainly needs to sit before Congress. We need a lot of other people from the U.S. Secret Service and DHS hauled before Congress. The first question that we need the answer to is, who denied the Trump team the requests for additional security? The Trump team requested additional security from Secret Service and DHS. Initially, Secret Service said the Trump team did not request that security. Then, after being pressed on it by reporters, the Secret Service admitted, okay, yeah, they did make requests for extra security and they were rejected. So first question, who denied the requests? Second question, When and how frequently did they deny the requests? Third question, who covered up the denials for the requests? Those are the first three questions that we need to have answered. If you suspect, as many people suspect, that there is some kind of conspiracy afoot to kill Donald Trump, the man that the left has demonized as Hitler and an existential threat to our democracy for 8 years, if you think that some people might have wished for his death, those are the first three questions you got to answer. If there is any conspiracy to be unwound, I'm not saying there is, other than this kind of bureaucratic conspiracy to deny him security. We at least know someone in the government wanted to deny him his necessary security. That in itself is a kind of conspiracy to kill him. Got to get those answers. Who's going to give us those answers? Kim Cheadle? Maybe, maybe not. Some deputy at Secret Service? Maybe. Alejandro Mayorkas? He better give us those answers. And if they don't give the answers, they should be held in criminal contempt of Congress and they should be thrown in jail, just like the libs are throwing all of the senior Trump White House officials in jail right now. We cannot let them memory hole this. There was an attempt to murder Trump, and there were people in the government who were complicit in that attempt, at the very least because they denied him the security he needed. That is established fact. If we don't find out who those people are, if we don't hold them to account, we are letting crooked politicians and bureaucrats get away very nearly with murder. Today is the final day to get 47% off your DailyWire Plus annual membership. Biden's out. The libs' new choice is part of the problem, not the solution. You won't hear that from the establishment media. That's why we're here, to cut through the noise and nonsense and bring you the truth. We need you in the fight with us. Today, only go to dailywire.com, use code FIGHT for 47% off your annual membership. My favorite comment, man, is it again from the Drummers Workshop at Norm's Music? It's amazing how, because I don't look at the names. I just look at the good comments. And so frequently, they send me so many comments. Obviously, there are many, many comments on each one of these episodes. And it's the same small handful of people who tickle my senses of delight. He writes, now that Cheadle has resigned, she can focus on writing her book, The Audacity of Slope. I am a sucker for a good pun. It's real good. Speaking of scandals, this is a story I held off talking about because I don't want... Speaking of the dangers of woke ideology, my friend Matt Walsh has a new movie coming out. We premiered the trailer last night on Daily Wire Backstage. Take a look.
We want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument. Would you mind signing it? You will? What do you think about this issue of heteronormativity and how it intersects with the broader structures of racism in society?
They gonna say I'm racist.
What's up with white people? What are you doing to decenter your whiteness?
Who's making it the center? Why are they doing that?
And what you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. Listen more for you and less for you. White
folks,
white
trash, white supremacy, white woman, white boy, white entitlement, white centering, white silence.
Is there a black person around here? So there's a black person right here. Does he not exist?
They gonna say I'm racist, but they call everybody racist.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. And what's your name?
I'm Matt.
Matt. Hi, Matt.
Nice to meet you.
Just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Got to be careful these days. That, for those who didn't catch it or who are only listening, that's Robin DiAngelo. That is probably the most prominent woman in the entire anti-racist huckster movement. And Matt somehow got her to sit down with him. So the movie's going to be great. The reason I mention it is not only to get everyone excited and to go out and get tickets, because this is going to be in theaters. But I mention it because I want to talk about the importance of being in theaters and the importance of being in the world. I'm sure the movie is going to be hilarious. I very much look forward to watching it. I really haven't seen any more of it than you have, though. From what I've heard about the scenes, and it's going to be great. However, what really gets me excited about this is the in theaters part. Not even because that's going to make us more money. I don't know that it will. It might make us less money if it's in theaters. But it's important to be in theaters because, as I say a lot, we are incarnate creatures. We are not just ideas floating in outer space and eternity. We're incarnate creatures in time and space, and it's very, very important. If you want to move culture, if you want to move politics, you have to be in the physical world, in time, in history, doing things where people gather together. This is, in a totally different industry, this is a large part of the motivation behind Mayflower cigars. Part of Mayflower cigars is I like smoking cigars, and I want to bring good cigars to people. Part of this movie for Matt is he likes trolling the libs, and he's very good at it. But part of it is I like cigars because it brings people together in physical places to have conversations over real periods of time with a physical, tangible thing in shops where you go and you meet people and you use the fullness of your humanity. Your body because we're not just, virtual digital creatures plugged into the matrix. Well, the same is true here. This is the first time that we've got a Daily Wire original movie that is going to be in theaters where you can go with your friends, with your family, do things in theaters and force the libs to deal with this. Not just be in our own corners of the internet, but force the broader society to deal with this. So it's very exciting. And it's not only going to be good content, but it's exemplifying a rather conservative view of how society even works. Okay, we got my friend Megan Basham coming on Member Block, the Member Room Segmentum. The rest of the show continues now. You don't want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.